Newsflash, you suck at communicating. Don't worry about it, I suck at communicating as well. That is literally the reason why I put together the Salad Bowl podcast, because I think as humans, we can do a better job of having hard conversations and turning it into something that's more palatable for all of us to be able to digest. To complement the Salad Bowl podcast, what I like to do is introduce a new segment. This segment is going to be called Side Salad. These side salads, they'll be vlog styled. They'll consist of a wide range of topics that are influenced from my day-to-day when it comes to my perspective on life. So with that being said, let me tell y'all what happened. I came to a realization. I was, I've told you in previous podcasts or previous episodes that I'm a father of 3. I love my children very much. I would say a lot of parents probably do things similarly when it comes to us raising our children. And one thing I think we could possibly center upon is racing our children, whether it's just a regular foot race or whether it's us coming out of the grocery store and saying, last one to the van, the car, the SUV is a rotten egg. I do this often with my children. I do it with my oldest. She's 15 now. Her name is Kaya. I do it with my middle child. Her name is Corey. She's 11. And then I probably do it the most with our most competitive child, our 4-year-old boy. His name is KJ. And the other day, we were coming out of the house and I said, I'll race you to the car. And something peculiar happened when that race started. I will tell you, just before I go into the race, 92% of the time, I usually let KJ win. He's my son, he's 4 years old, and I want my son to know how it feels to win things. So 90% of the time, I usually let KJ win. But for that 10% where I don't let him win, or I challenge him to run a little bit faster, I found that there was a specific trend that seemed to happen when I race him for real. It's interesting. Whenever I take off and I say I'm going to challenge KJ in this particular race, he always ends up impeding my path because he knows he might actually lose. If we're racing to the car, he'll, instead of staying in his lane of the race, he'll cross into mine to stop me from beating him in the race. I found that extremely interesting. And the other day when I was thinking about it, because we raced to the car, I thought to myself, I said, hey, is this a human thing that happens where we hear those footsteps and we get anxious from what's behind us? So I thought to myself, are we seeing this kind of play out in our country? And has it been the narrative of the United States of America when it comes to dominant groups feeling like they might not win the race? And they actually have the power to actually stop others from competing with them or impede them or set up obstacles. There's a book that I'm reading right now. I have a good group of guys around me, and we started this little challenge to where we said, hey, we're going to read at least 10 pages a day, pick a book. And it's your classic New Year's resolution type of environment. But I chose a book, and this book I think is a pretty special book. This book is called Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? I think that is it's a great book, and I've just started. I'm probably about halfway through. But one thing that it does in the beginning of the book that I really like is that it starts defining things to where we can get on the same level of our understanding of what certain things are. When we talk about topics like sexism, racism, they prove to be pretty challenging topics in our country right now. Topics that end up dividing us rather than unifying us at times. The thing about that is I think that comes from us not being centrally unified on what these definitions are. A lot of people, when they think about sexism or racism, they just think about the racial or gender prejudice behind these topics. Hey, because I have a prejudice or a bias against a certain individual, then that classifies me as racist, which is not necessarily true. The way this book puts us all on the same playing field is it tells us that that's not the sole definition of racism or sexism. Really, these isms, they define it as a system of advantages based off of your race or gender. Just a system of advantages. So it's not just the prejudice. Sometimes it can just look like a system of advantages. With that being said, it makes me think about the interaction with my son and in the race. I got to be honest with you, no matter whether you agree or disagree with me on some of these concepts and some of these definitions, I think we can all agree that what my son did in that race was what we'll call childish, or just showed low maturity or immature behavior, which leads me to my last points. And really, I just would like to sum this whole thing up with a couple of questions. If you are part of those dominant groups out there, whether it comes to sexism or racism, I want you to ask yourself a couple of things. If you are included with these dominant groups that we're speaking about, and they can manifest themselves in a lot of different spaces, in a lot of different areas, is it truly a competition if losing is not an option? If it proves to be a competition, what's a competition if losing is not on the table? The point of these conversations and the point of the side salad is not to shame and blame. If you've watched up until this point, know that anything that I said is not to hurt anybody or to shame somebody or blame you or make you feel guilty. Really, the goal of this whole thing is to have a conversation be started on the complexities of who we are as people. I ask that you continue to challenge yourself. I ask that you choose curiosity over certainty. And I'm looking forward to the next time I see you on the Salad Bowl podcast.